Hey, this is Matt Cain with the San Francisco Giants, and you guys are listening to Torture Cast.
You're listening to a podcast by and for fans of the San Francisco Giants with hosts Willie Dills, Chad King, and Ben Lee.
Let's go Giants! SF Giants! Let's go Giants! SF Giants!
Dedicated to the greatest team in Major League Baseball history, the San Francisco Giants. This is Torture Cast.
Standing on top, not gonna stop. We came to play, ain't slowing down. We're here to stay, and we're stomping on whatever's in our way. I'm feeling like a giant tonight.
Welcome, everybody, to the Torture Cast, the podcast by and for fans of the San Francisco Giants. This is a bonusode, as you can tell by the loud noises in the background. My name is Willie Dills, episode 68.1.
68.1.
The voice you just heard is one Chad King. We just watched a drubbing of the Brewers from the press box. Finally, a game that was fun to watch from the press box for us. Chad, how you doing? Welcome to the show.
You know how much better Jameson tastes after a victory like that? Salute. Man.
You notice that we're not joined by anybody else tonight, which is kind of rare for the bonusodes.
Yeah. I don't think we've done this for a couple of years when maybe we were recording at your work or something.
Yeah, the first one we did was at my office.
Yeah.
And it was very quiet, and since we've been doing the Zeeks, we've always had either Jen or Allie or Veronica or, Eric and Nathanson or some other party was always, here along for the ride. Tonight it's just the two of us, but I don't think we're going to run out of shit to talk about because tonight's game was epic, to say the least. The Giants won by a score of 13-2 tonight over the Milwaukee Brewers, a team that actually kind of tortured us earlier on in the year. I mean, we had a really bad series against them.
In Milwaukee.
Yeah.
Right?
And I'm not actually sure what the record is on the year for the Giants against the Brewers, but I know it wasn't very good.
No.
And the Brewers are a good team. They're in first place in the
I think they
division.
lost 3 out of 4 in
Yeah.
Milwaukee. So now
Well,
they're 2-4
the
against
Brewers
them.
were one of the hottest teams in baseball for a while.
Yeah.
And
They're still in first place.
Yeah, they're still
Central.
in first place. I think they've been in first place since July. Like they're just perennially in first place at this point.
Yeah, Cardinals are on their heels, though. I think they're a game and a half coming into tonight. I don't even know if Cardinals won or not tonight. If they did, they're a half game back.
So, 13-2. Vogelsong had an amazing outing. What was it? Wiley Peralta, who had 15. He was 15-8. Not like he had a scorching ERA. I mean, he was in like the threes or whatever.
Low
But
threes, though.
yeah, low threes.
He's low threes.
So
better than
having a
anyone
good
on the
season.
Giants staff, right?
He pitches in a bandbox, so that's a good ERA for a guy who pitches for an offensive-minded team in an offensive park. So, we expected a battle tonight. We did not expect the Giants to come out and just torch them for 13 runs.
No, when you drop a 3-spot in the first inning.
3-spot in the first inning, all with singles.
And here's look, we've complained about it all year. I think earlier in the year, writers for the Colorado Rockies, or fans, I guess, they were saying that we have the Magic Wandu going.
Oh yeah, the Giants have the Magic Wandu.
Extremely high BABIP.
High
Basically,
BABIP.
a lot of fucking good luck. And then it just all shriveled up in June and July. Tonight was definitely recapturing some of that April and May glory because that first inning, I mean, they smoked the ball pretty hard, don't get me wrong. But all 4 singles were on the ground. They just found holes.
Okay, so as far as extra base hits, you had 2 doubles. You also had 2 triples tonight, and you had 1 home run.
Yeah.
And that's the extent. Out of 19 hits, 5 of them were for extra bases.
Yeah, they singled them to death.
So 14 singles is really what did them in. And I mean, so the 2-run home run by Blanco. You had the triple from Posey, which was pretty exciting.
A little rare. A triple from Pagan.
And you had Pagan go a single, double, and a triple tonight.
Yeah.
Got pulled before. Well, he got one more at bat, but he didn't get the home run.
At-bat for the home run, yeah.
But Posey went 5 for 5. So let's talk about some of the big highlights tonight. Posey 5 for 5, which is an epic night for Posey. He's done it once before against the Mets last year.
Yeah.
So it's not his first 5 for 5, but 5 for 5 is that's just a big night. That's
It's
a
a big night for
historic
anyone.
type of night, yeah.
I mean, would have been exceedingly rare if he stayed in the game to try and go 6 for 6, but
Well,
no
at
one
that
faulted
point, yeah.
Bochy for pulling
If
it.
the game was 5 to 5, he's still in the game.
He's in. He's
Yeah.
in. Or if he
But-
could have gone for the cycle, if he doubled that last at bat.
Sure,
or something.
sure. But at this point, there was no reason to keep him in. And actually, I think, Ryan was talking to us. He's like, why haven't they put in everybody? Why isn't everybody out? So, well, the Giants don't really have a deep bench right now.
No. Too many pitchers on the team.
You look at the bench right now, and it's like Arias and there's just not a lot of options. Ishikawa, Duffy. There's not a lot of guys to pull from.
No, we figured Duffy was the only guy that didn't make it into the game.
Yeah, Duffy was the only guy who did not come in the game. But I mean, that makes sense because he can play second short. He can play kind of whatever you need him to do at that point. So you keep him in case somebody gets hurt weirdly. But yeah, it was a really fun night. You also had Panic, 4 hits tonight.
4 for 6, right?
Yeah. So Panic is now
What's
batting.
he up to?
He is now
312 or something
batting
like that?
312.
312.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and Posey's up to 297. You got Sandoval at 285. You got Pence at 290. You got Pagan over 300. If you think about it, we got a lot of guys right around the 300 mark, and that's pretty crazy for this team.
Well, and Posey's been hot. Everyone's been talking about we need this guy to carry the team for the last 28 whatever games.
Yeah.
And you called it perfectly. You said 8 games ago he was hitting 278.
Yeah.
And then it was Bags who tweeted out 8 games ago he was hitting 278.
And now he's batting 297. Yeah.
Which raising your average 20 points in August?
Yeah.
In 8 games?
Yeah.
What the hell, man?
That means you're scorching hot.
That's
so.
insane. He must be hitting freaking 750 over his last 8 games.
I got to look at what the actual stats are of those
Yeah,
games.
you go
but
5 for 5, and last night he had 3 hits. And
Yeah.
So it goes on and
So
on.
Pagan 3 hits, Panic 4 hits, Posey 5 hits, Pence 3 hits.
Oh yeah, Pence had 3 hits.
Blanco only 1, but he also got a couple of walks and hit the home run.
And a stolen base.
Vogelsong had one of the most entertaining at-bats of the night.
Oh,
when
that's
he
fantastic.
Fouled off 3 after getting to a full count,
and
then
just foul,
dumped a
foul.
single into right field. I mean,
Beautiful.
yeah, well, just a fun game all the way around. The only guy that was really struggling was poor Crawford.
Yeah, Crawford's he's hitting it hard right now, both defensively and offensively. And
Yeah.
I mean, they need him. You see a lot of people.
No, there's not another option, so
pining
he's
for-
going out there.
Pining for who?
Yeah.
Who are you going to replace him? Oh, let's put Duffy there. Let's put Arias
no.
there.
We're running him out every day, all the way until the end. And
Come on.
That's just how it's
not.
going to be.
It's not going to be different. Sorry.
But also, if you look at the league or the team leaders in a lot of stats, you also have to notice that he's got 50 RBIs on the season. He's not that far behind some of our big RBI guys because he's played a lot.
Yeah. Well, I mean, April and May were insane for him. He was
Yeah.
actually leading the team in RBI through somewhere in May, and he had 6 bombs in April and May.
Yeah. He's just scuffled
really
recently
cooled off.
and
Really cooled off.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate. But if the rest of the team can rally around him and they can do all the hitting, it doesn't matter. Just continue to play defense and don't have these double and 3 error nights anymore because that's really what kills us. But yeah, so really fun game, really a big game for the Giants to keep the momentum going after taking 3 out of 4 from the Rockies, which was not, you can look at that and you can say, okay, the Rockies series, maybe that turned something around for the Giants. It's really just beating up on a bad team that's even worse now than they should be.
Yeah.
So you can't put a lot of stock into that series. However, it was for the first time the Giants doing what they were supposed to do.
And, coming back from 2 tough losses. One in Washington,
Yeah.
they're leading 6-2. One
Oh, my God,
against
yeah.
Colorado, where Crawford's 2 errors really was the difference in the game.
Oh yeah,
A lot of teams
wasted
just
another
kinda,
good pitching
once they
performance
pack
too.
it in,
Yeah.
but, they're going to kind of play flat the next day. And, kudos to the Giants. They know they're in it still. They pulled out those 3 in a row. They come in tonight. It looks like a tough matchup.
Yeah.
And they absolutely destroy the Brewers.
Yeah,
They
so
got
now-
a 4-game
right
win
on a
streak
4-game win streak now. Yeah, so that's a big deal. At this point of the season, win streaks are massive, and if we can be the team that gets the win streak, and let's see what's going on with the Dodger game, by the way. Actually,
Yeah, I was gonna say,
just
check
want
on that.
to check out what's going on there. So right now, currently, 4 games back of the Dodgers. Depending on what happens tonight, could be 3.5, could be 4.5. Which is a big difference. I mean, at 4.5 at this point feels insurmountable. 3.5 doesn't.
You know what's crazy? If they do get to 3.5, they're only going to be a half game difference from where the Oakland A's are right now behind the Angels.
Wow.
Isn't that a trip?
With the difference in records, that just doesn't make sense.
No, because the Giants are, 10 games behind the A's
Yeah.
in record, but
Oh, man.
they're playing in the hottest division in baseball.
So right now, the Padres are up in the bottom of the 12th with a man on first and nobody out.
All right.
The Padres team, I'm amazed they scored 2 runs. They scored those 2 runs in the before the 4th inning, though. So
Yeah, Ryan
it's been a
Gayorko
long
hitting
time
199.
since they've put anything on the board. But anyway, so if the Padres can pull out a game from the Dodgers right now, the division is still within reach. I mean,
Yeah.
that's just continuing the win streak for a little while and then beating up on the Dodgers when we play them.
Yeah, we just recorded on Monday, and we were talking about how they might need to shoot for 88 wins, right? That was kind of before. Be more comfortable at 90.
Sure.
But 88 is a decent shot at making the wild card. Well, we were saying they had to go 20 and 10, or I think that's what it was, 20 and 10.
It was 22 and 10.
Yeah, because they had 68 wins at the time when we recorded, because they had just lost to Colorado. And here we are, they've won 4 in a row. So that 22 and 10 has turned to 18. Actually, the 18 and 10 puts them at 90.
Yeah.
If they go 16 and 12, they're at 88. That sounded
So there
a
you
lot
go.
better.
That sounds very doable. 4 games
Lot
over
better.
500. So that's
Yeah.
So I mean, right now you got it was doom and gloom 2 weeks ago,
That's
and
baseball.
one 4-game win streak over one bad team getting the 3 games, and then beating one good team by a huge margin tonight, and suddenly you feel pretty good about things.
Yeah.
And also, I mean, you thought even if the Giants did squeak in, the way things were going before, you thought, what are they going to be able to do in the playoffs? Like, what could they possibly? Who are they going to beat in the playoffs, even if they did squeak in? Well, I mean, hell, they just walloped the Brewers tonight, so clearly they can do it. They're capable. If they go in riding a hot streak, who knows? Get there and you see what happens.
And the Cardinals did lose tonight, so officially the Giants leap ahead of the Cardinals for the number 1 wild card spot.
That's right.
Which I didn't realize that. So,
Yeah.
So there you go. I mean, hey, look, the Giants are barely over
I think
500
it's
at
aren't
home,
they?
though.
Oh, they're up by a half a game
They're
on it.
half game on St.
Okay.
Louis. St. Louis lost tonight. Yeah, and Atlanta's 1 game behind. the
But
Cardinals.
you have to look. So it's basically like a game and a half. You could consider it.
Well, yeah,
Game
the
and a
wild
half
card,
lead
no matter
in the
1 or
wild card,
2, it's
yeah.
1.5 over Atlanta, 2 over Pittsburgh right now. Miami's faded now to 6.
Yeah, so it's really a 4-team race at this point for
It's
2
a 14
spots.
race for 2 spots. So
Yeah.
2 out of those 4 teams are going to make it. And obviously St. Louis can switch with Milwaukee. That could happen too. But either way, those 4 teams. Hey, we got
That's
a
a,
good shot
that's, a, that's a 50-50 right there.
50-50. Let's
Yeah.
flip the coin. Yeah.
So you gotta like those chances. Again, though, we gotta reiterate. We don't want the wild card. We want the
Oh
division.
my God,
So.
it's a crapshoot. Jesus
Yeah.
Christ.
Yeah.
They could have home field, throw Bumgarner in that 1-game playoff against St. Louis or Atlanta
Yeah.
or Pittsburgh.
Well, the thing is,
And then that's it.
You
They
know
could
that
lose.
you want Bumgarner, and you know that you feel good putting him out there, right?
Absolutely.
So you feel good about your chances in 1 game. The problem is that then you go against their ace with your number 2 guy, and that's really where the disadvantage lies.
That is why you don't want the wild card,
Okay, so
even
let's-
if you win.
Let's real quick talk about something because and I kind of want to bring this around to talking about the wild card in its current state. We'll get around to that conversation in a second, but first let's just quickly make an announcement. Chad was at the ball game very early today and was able to finagle his way into a short interview with the one, the only Will the Thrill.
Yeah.
So we're going to tease that now. That's going to come out as an episode of TortureCast very
Yeah.
soon. So look forward to that, TortureCasters. But yeah, go ahead. Tell us how that all went down.
Yeah, with the 280 closure in the Bay Area, I assumed there was going to be heavy traffic. So I just came up extra early, and sure enough, there was no traffic. So they're not applauding us, by the way.
No. Who knows why they're plotting? It's a bar.
So I got in early. This was an hour and a half before BP, and I went behind home plate, and
Well, there was BP going on.
There was a BP going on,
Yeah.
and I had no idea this is what was happening tonight. But Manny Pacquiao and Chris Algieri, to promote their fight in November, they threw out the first pitch tonight. So they were in the cage taking some cuts, and they had a contest who could see it, who could hit it the farthest. So they allowed everybody to come right around the cage. So I was like 5 feet from Manny Pacquiao,
Yeah, this is not-
who
they're
stands
not-
up to about my left nipple.
He's a little man.
Yeah, he's a little man.
Small guy.
And not a good hitter. Doesn't matter. He's a millionaire because of his other skills. But standing right to my right.
Remember the commercial? He's like the Bo Jackson. Remember it was like, Manny Pacquiao can, he can paint or whatever.
I think they were
and he
making fun of his lack of skills in any other profession or hobby or skill.
Yeah.
He's a one-trick pony.
Okay.
But standing right to my right was Will Clark, and so, he was my favorite Giant growing up, my favorite Giant of all time, and I knew I had to ask him for an interview, and it was just a matter of picking my spot. So he was doing stuff with the boxers and other players. All the players were taking selfies with Manny Pacquiao. He's a hero of theirs. And then he was grabbed by Marty Lurie to finish an interview. So I just kind of hung out and listened to the interview, but also listened to their post-interview conversation. A lot of F-bombs from Will. It was actually pretty interesting just to hear
he's dropped F-bombs on national
television in the playoffs. Yeah. So
Precursor
no,
to
it was
Timmy,
not to not be expected, but it was just funny how the interview turns off and then the real Will comes out.
Yeah.
But after he was done chatting with Marty, I just grabbed him and asked him if he had 5 minutes, and he said, "Yeah, sure, no problem." So yeah, we had a 6-minute interview. It was fantastic. I actually didn't, pee my pants, and it was pretty good. I got his thoughts on the 87 and 89 playoffs, compared that to the 2010 and 2012 teams, just because of the 2-year separation, how much experience 87 gave him and the team for 89. Just thoughts
to get past the Cardinals in that year.
Yeah,
then,
God, Candy Maldonado. I didn't mention anything like that, but what are you gonna do?
But
right?
then, it's. I think there's a lot of parallels you could draw between those two teams, because it was, in a lot of ways, it was the 87 team was a lot scrappier, and a lot less was expected of them, and then 89 team was a lot more like more of a powerhouse type of team.
Yeah, 89 was clearly a better team than 87.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
But so his thoughts on that, and if the experience gave him, more gumption in 89. But then I also asked him about the 93 season, in which they won 103 games.
And did not go to the playoffs.
And did not go to the playoffs because they finished one game behind the Atlanta Braves, who won 104. And he's still kind of pissed about that year because he knew, and they were hot at the end of the year. Yeah. Atlanta was just a little bit hotter.
Well, they got Fred McGriff.
They got Fred McGriff, and Atlanta Fulton County Stadium burned down, and that apparently helped them. I don't know, some old baseball, legend story there. But no, he talked about the wild card. I asked him if he likes the new format versus the old format. He actually does not like the new format with the two teams that get in, because a one-game crapshoot is just, we talk specifically about the A's and the Angels. One of those teams most likely is going to go in as a wild card with something like 97 wins, probably better than any other team in baseball. And yet, they might not make it into the next round.
Sure.
So that's kind of unfortunate. Then I also quizzed him. I talked about Jorge Soler, who just came up with the Cubs, and he hit a home run in his first at-bat a couple of days ago.
Yeah.
Of course, Will Clark hit a home run in his first at-bat in 86 in the Astrodome versus Nolan Ryan. So I asked him, how many Major League players have hit a home run in their first at-bat?
Oh, wow.
And he was like, shit, I don't know. So he said, I know I was like 50-something. Yeah. So he's like, I don't know, 75. I said 117. So 117 players have done that. So he was impressed by that, but I been a little depressed because, he thought it was in the 70s, but I assured him there's been more no-hitters than 117. So you're okay.
Well,
you're okay.
It's still, you think about how many players have come through the majors, and, each one of them got one crack at hitting a home run in their first at-bat. Only 117 did it.
Tens of thousands of players over the history of baseball.
That's pretty good. So it's 117 home runs out of tens of thousands of at-bats.
And one of them was Dwayne Kuiper. No, I'm just kidding. Sorry.
By the way, today is the anniversary of Dwayne Kuiper's home run. If I ever get a chance
to God, man.
If I ever get a chance to talk to Kuiper, I'm definitely going to ask him if he thought that home run was going to break the seal. If he just all he needed to do was get one, and it was going to open the floodgates.
Yeah,
and then suddenly he was going to hit like 30 more.
No, he
But-
stated that he's glad he didn't hit more than one.
Yeah?
He's glad he didn't even hit 2.
It makes him very special.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
If he hit 2, he's like, do you
Yeah.
think people would have been talking about my
Nobody
home
gives a
run?
crap that you hit a second one.
No
Yeah.
one would have cared.
The second-
The fact that he hit 1.
That's weird to think about because that would have been basically the worst home run in the history of baseball
Yeah.
to hit the second one. Yeah. It's like
You should
the
ask him if
first
he
one-
tried to not hit a home
the
run.
first one
second
was
home
the
run.
greatest home run in the history of baseball.
Yeah.
The second would have been the worst. Thankfully, that never happened.
Yeah.
Okay, why I wanted to kind of bring that up, and also to tease the fact that very soon there will be an episode, a very special episode, not just a bonusode, but a bonus of a bonusode with a short interview with Will Clark. We'll put that out as a separate episode.
Yeah, no, I just have to
So-
say, today some really good things happened for Torture Cast.
Yeah, we had a
Thanks
good day.
personally.
Good
Some
day
other
all
things that
around.
we're going to reveal later.
Good day all around.
Yeah.
But I want to bring this up also to discuss this new wildcard format because I have a different view of it than Will Clark does. I like the fact that we're now having these two teams do the one playoff game. The reason being is that there was a few years there where it seemed like the wildcard team was actually winning the World Series at a higher clip than they should be. More often, they were winning the World Series over teams that had battled to win their division.
Yep.
And I don't find fault in having 4 teams. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. You know, I mean, there was a time where one team from each got in, one team from each league got in, and then they played each other in the World Series.
That was it.
Then we switched to the divisional thing.
And that was all the way up until we looked it up tonight, 1969.
Yeah. So 69 is when they split into 2 divisions.
Yeah.
Then 2 teams played 1 league championship series, then went on to the World Series. And then what was it? It was in the 2000s that they switched to the wild card, right?
Yeah, no, it was 1990.
Was it the late 90s?
Yeah, it's 99, I want to
Okay.
say.
So this is still a pretty recent phenomenon. Oh, it's having a wild card, and you know, obviously, like other teams or other sports had this. Football, wow, they're getting drunker and drunker to our left.
Little quarters or something going on.
I think yeah, some quarters. So wild card was something that kind of got adopted from other leagues. Football was doing the wild card thing before we were, which makes more sense too because it's less games and it's you're not sure if 16 games have really decided who the best teams are.
Right,
so-
if you have, one significant injury or bad luck in one game, that's
Yeah.
the difference of making the playoffs or
Yeah.
not. So the wild card kind of
But in
absorbs
baseball,
that.
162 games is going to figure out.
Yeah, you
most
have a couple of
cases.
bad games. If you lose out by a game, well, you have 162.
But it figured out who the best teams were in general much better than and then you look at other sports like the ridiculousness of the NBA playoffs, where basically half the league makes the playoffs.
And the
It's just
NHL.
stupid. Yeah, the NHL, half the
Both
league.
sports, especially the Eastern Conference of the NBA
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
some of the NHL
So you
teams,
just got
they
lucky.
can be under 500
Yeah. You got
and be
lucky
the
that
8th
you're in the
seed.
right conference. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
stupid.
like the Warriors going in as the 8 or 7 seed with an above 500 record, and there's number 6 seed in the Eastern Conference that it's under 500.
But I mean, those teams have no shot. There's really no need to be putting those teams in the playoffs.
No, they're put in number 8. They get blown out. Yeah, it happens.
They
all
have
the
no
time.
chance.
No.
They should go down to 5 teams, like the baseball is doing, and just have 2 teams be considered wild cards. Like they have these divisions within the conferences that mean absolutely nothing. There's no freaking point in having a Pacific division in the NBA because it means nothing. Like the Warriors were like second in the Pacific. It's like, who gives a crap? Where are they in the conference? That's all that matters. So anyway, whatever. That's another topic for another podcast. We'll let the NBA podcast hash that one out. I think though that penalizing the wild card teams is the correct way to go. But I don't think there's another good way to do it other than give them one more series to play. And I don't want them to play a 3-game series because that's, in effect, too much of a penalty by asking them to play that much more baseball. So I think the 1-game playoff is actually perfect because what it essentially does is just takes your best pitcher away because you need to play your best pitcher
You have to.
try to get to the next round. You can't hold back at that point and plan for getting to the next round. So you have to, put your best pitcher out there, win that 1 game, and then deal with the fact that you're down your best pitcher to start this series. Makes it harder to get past the next series and makes winning the division more important, and it should be important. So my feeling is I like it because if you're going to have a wild card, you better penalize being a wild card.
I have mixed feelings about it just because of the fact that I don't like that many teams making the playoffs.
Yeah, it's a lot of
not like the
teams.
NHL, the NBA, granted, but it's a lot of teams. I will agree with you, though. I like the fact that you penalize a wild card team.
Yeah.
I mean, you had the Giants and the Angels in the 0-2 World Series. They're both wild card teams.
Exactly.
You know, if they both had faced one-game playoffs, it wouldn't have been those two teams, most likely.
No. Likely it would have definitely been different teams, and you know, it's just.
But on the other hand, there will be years in the future, guaranteed over the next 20, 30 years, where the Giants benefit off of this.
Yeah.
They could benefit this year. This is what we're shooting for. Now the irony is, if they do secure the number one wild card spot, we're going to lament the fact that there's a second wild card, because in the old wild card system,
They would have just been
they
the
would go
only
right
wild card.
in.
Yeah.
They would just go right in, and then
However-
they have to play. So,
However,
But you don't know what's going to happen.
I'm
from year to year.
still going to be a proponent of, if you're going to have wild cards at all, you should definitely have some sort of penalty going in. And I don't think that non-home field advantage is enough of a penalty. I think it has to be more significant than that. I think this is about right. Now, the number one wild card does get home field advantage for that one game, right? So there's still something to fight for even within that. I don't know. I just like a lot of stuff to fight for. To me, it makes the regular season mean a lot still. I hope we never see some 8-team bullshit, because that would just be fucking awful.
Yeah. Well, Major League Baseball loves this, and it's good for TV. It's good for the fans, because way more teams are in it.
More teams are in it.
Up until the last few weeks.
Right now, rather than there being maybe 3 or 4 or 5 teams in it, there's 7 teams. I have no idea what
Padres
happened.
just walked off.
Oh, the Padres won.
just walked off. That's what they're cheering about.
Wow.
It's on TV. Padres won, so the Giants are now 3.5 back.
3.5 games back.
Yes, that's correct, right? 3.5?
Yeah.
Oh, the Dodgers are taking the walk of shame in the dugout.
Wow. That's beautiful.
Now beat LA chance.
All right, let's get this in a little bit. All right, see? You know, I mean, this is
why we do the bonusode sometimes. You never know what's going to happen.
But this is what. This is how I want it to be going into September. Yeah.
Cheers.
Cheers, buddy. This is how I want it to be going into September in San Francisco.
That was about quarters.
The Padres did not walk off again. Yeah. But this is how I want it to be coming into September in San Francisco. It's you know, last year was real sad going into September and
there was nothing to
and
look
having
forward
no
to. Nothing.
chance to even sniff anything. So, yeah.
Hey, 3.5 back with 28 to play,
Yeah.
and they have 6 left against the Dodgers. They absolutely can control their own destiny. If they take 4 out of 6 from LA, they gain 2 games, which makes it 1.5. So in theory, if the Giants can take 4 out of 6, they only have to gain a game and a half
within the rest of the season outside of those 6 games.
out of 22 games.
Yeah.
So, you know,
That is extremely doable.
it's extremely doable.
Yeah.
So,
And we were talking about going into this series, picking up ground on the Dodgers while we're playing the Brewers and they're playing the Padres is going to be.
it was a tough.
It's a tough
call.
assignment, right? You know.
And they can still lose a game if things go wonky. But
Well,
right
yeah,
now they're sitting.
but step one in the
Step one is
books,
complete.
game the game first night. Now tomorrow we got a day game, and I think it's the series finale that Bumgarner pitches. So
Yeah, he's pitching Sunday.
we can more likely than not throw that one in the win column, because Bumgarner is our 15-game winner who just
And
almost
he's been
pitched the
hot.
perfect game.
He's
and,
been
you
hot.
know, so it's really tomorrow's the big game, I think. Tomorrow's the big game of the series. I'm going to call tomorrow like a semi-rubber match, because if we win tomorrow and we go into
Good shot at
the 3rd game with Bumgarner on the mound, really good shot at a sweep. Absolutely fantastic shot at a sweep. I have no idea, so we're back from our break. No idea where we were, but we will just continue to talk about other shit. So another thing that happened while we were away, which was, like 5 days. It's good having these episodes, though, more frequently.
Well, especially coming down the stretch here.
Yeah. I got to throw a shout-out to Reddit peeps, because somebody posted on Reddit asking, what Giants podcasts are out there? What do you guys listen to? And they said, I only listen to TortureCast and the KNBR podcasts. And I was like, whoa, this is cool.
One of those is
apparently apparently if you're looking for a Giants podcast, this is it. This is the one you find. So that's a good place to have gotten to, you know?
Of course, there's not much else out there right now.
Yeah, unfortunately, Giants Pod has been quiet.
Isn't that weird, though? Yeah. I mean, besides Giants Pod, which, they're still alive, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But there's still nothing else out there.
They got a guy in law school. It's
busy as hell.
And then, those pizzas ain't going to deliver themselves, let me tell you. Shout out to Reddit for that, by the way. Anybody who listens to this show, please help us out. Share this show. Tell other people, because I think a lot of people do want to have more content outside of KNBR, and we're trying our best to provide that, but,
Yeah, so our mission to you guys, post us on Reddit, post us on Facebook, especially there's a lot of Giants fan pages on Facebook if you're a Facebook user. There's like Kruk and Kipe, SF Clubhouse.
Yeah, link to us and say, hey, I found this thing. It's pretty cool.
And some of these groups have like 10,000 people.
Yeah.
So, anyway.
Because it would help us a lot, and we are trying to bring you guys more content and more varied content coming up, and obviously, this season's coming to a close, but we'd love to cover another playoff run, and and then of course next season, who knows, man? And lots more content could be coming your way. Now that being said, what happened since our last show, which was Monday? Is,
they lost.
Yismiero Petit.
Yes, another perfect thing.
He has now set a major league record, and we brought it up briefly on that show that he was at 38. And we brought it up on that show, but kind of in passing, because you still got to get you got to get 9 people out or whatever it is, 8 people out, right, to get to the magic 46.
Yep.
And he did that. We knew his next start was coming. He was going to start in place of Timmy, and he pulled off the exact amount of outs he needed to get the record, and then he let the pitcher hit a double.
Man, that's baseball, right?
That is baseball, yeah.
The trippiest thing, too, because he tied Mark Burley at 45.
Yeah.
Then he got 46, and that was fantastic and all.
And 46, too, by the way, was a strikeout with a ball went in the dirt, and
they had to throw it out at first.
Throw the guy out at first. So there was a little bit of tension in that one, and there was a couple of deep fly balls too in I think the first inning.
Yeah.
So it wasn't, easy by any means, and obviously getting 46 outs in a row without giving up a single walk or a hit or even an error reaching. That's 46 batters retired in a row.
Yeah, you have to rely on your defense too.
Yeah.
Like you said, it's not just the defense, but the catcher, Susak at the time, had to throw the guy out at first.
Yes.
Which, it's an easy
play. You have
play.
to get a strikeout, and you have to have your catcher dig it out of the dirt and throw him out.
But, 46, 47, 48, it's really not going to matter too much, because it's going to be probably another 5 to 10 years until anyone approaches that number. But it was pretty damn funny that the pitcher came up after 46.
Yeah.
And everybody assumed, he's getting 47.
He's going to go to 47, and then who knows? What if you got to... What if he set the new Oral Hershiser standard of 59 consecutive scoreless innings?
Right.
Where Petit goes out and throws, 60 consecutive batters or something. It would be a number that maybe people would say, hey, this is never going to get broken.
And it wasn't even...
He could have got there.
And it wasn't an error, a walk, a hit by pitch.
Yeah.
And it wasn't even a flare.
No, it was a solid
infield
double.
Single. It was a solid double by the pitcher.
Yeah.
It's just one of those things.
Yeah,
but,
it's baseball.
At least that didn't happen 2 batters before, because everyone would have been talking about that.
Somebody on Reddit, while we're giving shout-outs to Reddit, posted the odds of getting 45 batters in a row out, which was the record. And he had calculated the odds of getting 45 batters out consecutively at about 1 in 6 billion. So if you take into account every plate appearance and the percentage of time a batter will reach base in any fashion.
Yep.
And then you say, now if you take that and then you do it 45 times,
Yep.
what is the actual odds that you will actually, as a pitcher, get 45 batters of average, strength? Whatever. You can't, obviously, you could say this batter was better than this batter, whatever. It doesn't matter. You're talking an average hitter over 45 times.
Yeah, we're talking about
and
plus or minus $1 billion or $2 billion, and in
it's
that
1 in
case,
6
who
billion.
cares,
Yeah,
right?
it's
If
1 in
4 billion or 8 billion.
1 in 6 billion roughly.
Yeah.
Now to do the 46th batter, 1 in 8 billion. So basically it was impossible to get to 47, right?
And that's what's crazy about it, because
That's
it's
what,
just
like 1 in 9 billion or 10 billion at that point?
it's like an exponential
It's actually,
function,
it continues
right?
to go up because
Yeah.
each one makes it even harder.
Every batter at that point, increases it so much. I
Yeah.
mean, it's way... Talk about Vegas odds, man. If anyone had futures on that, they could retire right now and probably bankrupt the casino. So I'm sure that's never been a prop bet.
No, and it never will be. But
Never will be. For that reason.
whether he did it as a starting pitcher, which I think is definitely a little harder. Burley, did it as a starting pitcher with 2 starts in a row. And it was 3 starts, I think, because he had the perfect game in the middle.
He had the perfect game in the middle. Yeah. It was
But,
tail end of one, beginning of another. Look, if you line up 46 consecutive major league pitchers at the plate,
Yeah. And then you
the
come
odds
in,
are 1 in 6
And
billion.
then you come in once a day and try to get one of them out, and then go home, and then come back the next day and get one more out. Odds are at some point one of them will get a knock, or take
or an
a walk.
error, or a walk,
Or, yeah,
or hit by
yeah.
pitch, anything. I
Yeah.
mean, that's why it's so incredible.
Yeah.
I heard some people going, it was against the Rockies and some of the Padres. And no, he faced
Whatever.
the Dodgers.
Yeah.
He faced a lot of quality teams. The Nationals. He had 5 1/3 innings against the Nationals.
That's right.
After
He had an
Bogey
amazing
got blown
performance
up or
against the
something.
Nationals. That's right. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
so-
you can't take anything away from this accomplishment.
No.
It's a major league record, and right now you go into the major league record books and use Merrill Petit. Your name is in there, buddy.
So 2 stories about that game. First of all, the MLB authenticators are at every game,
Yeah.
and they're there to stamp anything that happens, and that's of historic value, and they're there to authenticate, put the hologram on it, whatever. So after the 45th,
Rub it on their nuts a little bit. Yeah,
Exactly,
whatever they
you know,
gotta
do a little mark-
I don't know what the process is.
some magic voodoo. So after the 45th out, they showed the authenticator was trying to get the attention
Yeah,
of
he's
the
like,
pitcher.
I gotta get the ball.
I gotta get that. I gotta get
Yeah.
that. But it was kind of a half-hearted effort.
And what's funny,
because you can't interrupt. I mean, you
they
don't want
threw
to
it back to him, and then he went to pitch, and then it was a foul ball.
Yeah, and then it was a foul ball because you don't want to interrupt the pitcher either. You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying? You don't want to go, let's stop the game to remove
Yeah.
the ball.
Yeah.
In that case, I mean,
Yeah.
if it's a historic home run,
Well, here's
you
what-
can do that.
The only way it
You
would have
can't do
been
that. You break up a pitcher's rhythm, and,
Yeah.
and the authenticator could be the one
the only way
who
it would have been
screws up the
natural
mojo.
is if the umpire had gone forward and just said, "Hey, I need that ball. I'm gonna throw you a new one."
Yeah.
because that kind of stuff just happens. Whatever.
So after the 46th out, what was really funny is that there was a ball hit. It went back to him. Basically, the same ball was used for the next because there's two hits in a row.
Yeah.
Right, because it was Blackman who got a single after that.
Yeah.
And it drove in a run. The pitcher made it, and they reviewed that play and everything like that. They still didn't pull the ball, so the same ball was being used that got the 46th out, and it was a strikeout, I believe, that ended the inning.
Yeah.
And Susak came off out of the field, and he actually threw it in the stands.
Oh my God.
And apparently, half the Giants
now-
were like,
yeah.
no.
Yeah.
And so, actually, I don't know if they ever got that ball back.
Well, I'm sure they did because now what they have to do is basically go to the fan, offer him like a pair of tickets
Totally,
or something,
right.
and whatever. But it's a process that's been done plenty of times. Like, gotta get that ball.
So I don't know if it was in consolation to the fact that they didn't get the ball or in addition to it, but today they told Petit that his hat went to the Hall of Fame.
Oh, cool.
So he thought that was pretty cool.
Nice.
Because most likely, that's the only piece of Petit's clothing that's ever going to be displayed at the Hall of Fame unless he actually pitches another perfect game or actually
another,
completes it. I shouldn't say
completes,
another.
Yeah,
actually
completes
it.
the initial. Yeah.
Yeah.
But this is Petit now 2 years in a row where he's brushing, just brushes with history, and it's kind of amazing because this guy is like, it's not a name that we associated with historical performances.
No.
Nobody would have said, oh, you know who's going to probably throw a perfect game? Is that guy Petit. I think that's probably your biggest, candidate to throw a perfect game. But nobody was thinking that. Now, I actually had an interesting thought about this, which is that, so Bumgarner is in the 8th inning and gives up a hit when he, did he have 1 out or was it 0 outs?
No outs.
So there's no outs, and he gives up a hit. He gives up a double to break up his perfect game bid, and he basically has no reaction. He kind of does the Bumgarner thing. Almost everybody to a man was saying, well, the really important thing, if you think about it, is that you just get the win. That's the important thing. But I start thinking about this. Is that really the important thing? Because in 5 years, are we going to talk about
that win,
the game that he won, or would we be more likely to talk about that perfect game he threw? And I understand the sentiment behind, okay, the win is the thing, that's really the important thing. But in the grand scheme of things,
that's
100 years from now,
but in the future,
100 years from now, we would not talk about it if it wasn't a perfect game. This one hitter, brilliant performance will not be talked about necessarily, but a perfect game definitely would be. So it's just an interesting idiosyncrasy that we kind of have to convince ourselves that it doesn't really matter as long as you get the W.
So you had Sanchez and
let's say the Giants missed the playoffs too, right? Completely.
Well, then it definitely doesn't matter.
Never give a
if they
crap
make it by
about the
one
win.
game, then you're saying okay, admit it. Sanchez had a no-hitter in 09. You had King with the perfect game in 12. You had Lincecum with a no-hitter in 13.
And
14. You almost had a perfect game by Petit in 13. And you almost had a perfect game by Bum in 14.
They're getting
if
used
those
to this,
two had actually completed those perfect games, could you imagine that? The Giants would have had 3 perfect games and 2 additional no-hitters in, 3 seasons?
Yeah.
What the hell?
That's insane.
What the hell, man?
I would love to see the numbers on if there's ever been another run by any team.
Well, there's only been, 27 or 28 perfect games, and it would have been at 29 or 30.
High? Is it really that high?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's in the high 20s. No, it's in the high 20s, but if it's 25 or 30, if the Giants had somehow completed those 2, they would have had 3 perfect games out of the total. They would have had 10% of all perfect games in the last 2
within
years.
a couple of years. Yeah, within a couple of years of baseball.
That's crazy.
It's just, I can't even imagine. Obviously, we don't have the numbers on if another team has had a run like that, but I can't imagine it's ever happened before.
So
even to come this close, I can't imagine it's ever happened before.
I think we talked a little bit about this on Monday, and 46 is just an insane. I can't even comprehend getting 46 major league batters out in a row with nothing going wrong. What do you think? I mean, obviously you got to consider stamina if you're going for a full, complete game, perfect game. You also got to consider the pressure of a perfect game, closing it out, as we've seen with him, with 2 strikes and 2 outs with Eric Chavez, and Pence almost getting to that ball.
Yeah.
Do you think 46 consecutive outs is more impressive than a perfect game?
Yes, absolutely. It has to be. It just has to be because it's 46 instead of 27.
Yeah.
It just is. All those factors aside,
I think 27.
It's 19 more.
27 broken up is less impressive than 27 in a row. But like you said, 46. That's another 19. That's almost 2 perfect games in a row.
Yeah.
That's got to be harder than a perfect game.
It is.
It's got to be.
It is.
No matter if you pitch 1 batter at a time. Over 46 appearances.
And obviously there's factors closing it out. You got the game on the line.
Yeah, you're 120 pitches, whatever.
Yeah, I get that. But in the grand scheme of things in the long run, no. 46 is one of the most impressive things from a pitcher that we'll probably ever see as Giants fans in our lifetime, is that he actually pulled that shit off. It just is so baseball that the next guy is the pitcher and gets the double, though. It's like you can't write this shit, You can't sit down and say, here's the story, He's gonna give 46 guys out in a row, and then he's gonna give up a double to the pitcher, because everyone would be like, that's stupid. Why would that happen? No, he'll get the pitcher out, and then the next guy will bunt his way on or something.
Yeah.
Now I'm surprised that more guys didn't try to just bunt their way on, just screw that up. You know?
Just screw it up, yeah.
But you think about like
Amazing.
the greatest streaks in baseball history, and you've obviously got Joe DiMaggio. You got, you know, it's
That's got to be the greatest.
you got
don't you
Oral
think?
Hershiser. Yeah, I mean it is because
56?
you know that's an insane number of games to get a hit in a row. Getting a hit is really hard, and getting a hit in every game is really difficult. But then to do it in like a third of the games basically in a row.
Yeah, you're right. That's got
Third of the games of the season. At the time, it was what, like 156
154.
games or 154? Yeah.
So
So
it's even more than that.
that's literally more than a third of the season. There's a couple of other ones out there. Like there's the most consecutive games with like a home run and stuff, and I think it's like 7.
I think it's 6 or 7.
And you know, there's a couple. There's some real random stuff out there. I think.
A lot of guys have tied for 4 home runs in a game.
But I honestly think
7 hits
that's
in a game.
I think that's one of the most impressive ones. But I do put Oral Hershiser up there, man.
59.
Yeah, 59 consecutive scoreless innings is crazy. It's crazy dominant. Like any single inning can fall apart for a multitude of reasons that aren't your own, you know. And just 59 in a row scoreless innings is it's craziness.
Yeah.
It's craziness. Who was it that he beat out, by the way, for that?
That was in 19.
It was another. Yeah, that was 88.
Yeah.
That was he beat out a pretty big name. I think it was like Ron Goodry or something like
I
that.
can't remember.
All right. Well,
I remember the day he broke it. Yeah, even being a Giants fan and him being a Dodger, it was definitely something to be very impressed about. I mean,
Yeah.
that's think about complete games.
by the way, Hershiser, one of the only guys to.
It's like 6.5 complete games
Yeah.
of shutout.
Hershiser, one of the only guys to go from the Dodgers to the Giants. Just doesn't happen. But anyway, so I just wanted to bring that up because I thought that was, you know, really incredible to watch. And I was at work that day, and I just, when he actually pulled it off, that was just a big time fist bump for that one. So good job, Petit. I'm glad that you finally got your moment in the sun there. And the other thing to note here is Lincecum out of the lineup or out of the rotation. Petit in. This is his first start. You know, he only pitched 6 innings in the game because I think he only threw like 85 pitches or something.
Yeah, he was taken out probably a little earlier than he could have been, but
Yeah.
it all worked out. That's fine. So today in the pregame Bochy conference, that was one
Oh,
question.
it was Don Drysdale.
Oh,
who
it
had
was Drysdale.
58
There you
innings.
go. Yeah, another Dodger. Yeah. So in the pregame conference, Bochy was asked if Petit's going to take the next start in Colorado.
Obviously.
And, I mean, I think everybody knew the answer because how could it not be?
Yeah.
Bochy was like, well, yeah, he's starting. And he's like, how could he not after his last performance?
Yeah.
I think he threw Timmy a couple of bones. He was saying, but we've seen Timmy on the side and he looks good. His mechanics look good. And whatever. You just say that anyway, right? You're not going to throw your
Obviously,
your
we would
pitcher under the
love to have
bus.
Timmy come back and be a factor. I was half expecting to see Timmy in tonight's game.
Well, I did too. In fact, we talked about that because Bogey went 7. They have an 11-run lead.
Yeah.
And
It's
he
like,
hasn't.
what better time to test Timmy out in the bullpen
So
than
I was
tonight?
saying, he hasn't pitched in like 7 days. No, it's been longer than that because he had his blow-up start. Then he went 5 games. Then Petit started. And now it's been another 3 or 4, right?
Yeah.
Or 2 or whatever. Anyway, I think it has been about 8 or 9 games. So is he just thrown on the side? Are they going to just work on his mechanics until?
Well, I've seen.
Why wouldn't
I've
he go
seen
in?
the video of him throwing with and he's got Rags watching him and all that.
Yeah, I saw him throw today.
But yeah, I mean, I feel like tonight would have been the perfect opportunity to just chuck him out there and say,
Zero risk.
Hey, whatever you do, it's fine.
Zero
Go out
risk.
there and just let's just feel this out. Let's feel out the process of getting into the bullpen and then getting into the game and all that. You've only done it one time in the for a period of time during the playoffs, and then one time because it was the 16th inning or whatever we needed a save from you. That's all he's done so far.
So you got.
So this would have been a great time to kind of test that out. And we didn't. We got Contos, which, Contos kind of need to give him some innings too. I get it.
Yeah, he's just called up. He hasn't pitched
he's
yet.
not coming in any high pressure situations yet. So this is a good time for him to get some blow. But yeah, no, I would have liked to have seen it. I posted it in the Reddit, and a couple people were like upvoting it and saying, "Yeah, look, that sounds like a great idea. Let's do that." Obviously, as a Giants fan, you want to see Timmy succeed in this role if this is what it turns into down the stretch. When we do get to the playoffs, if we do get to the playoffs, you don't even have to worry about Petit necessarily being your starter because you only need 4. So you've already got 4 other guys that are fine at this point.
I think he's got about 5 more scheduled starts.
Yeah. So if he's going to make an
fifth
impact
spot.
in the regular season, it's going to be in the next few weeks as a reliever, right? And
Yeah. So do you think that Bochy and the Giants management at this point are basically just going to have it's going to be start by start. So if Petit does well in Colorado, he's going to pitch the next game. If
Yeah, I
he does
think
well in
that's where
that
it's
start,
at.
he's going to go in the next game. It's basically, I think he's going to pitch until he blows up. If he has a bad game, then that's
one
going
bad
to give...
game, you just throw Lincecum back in there. If he's
I
looking
honestly
good.
think that's
Yeah.
going to happen. I think if Petit, and I'm not talking about 3 runs in 6 innings. That's not a bad start. That's still a quality start,
Yeah.
right? But I'm
Yeah,
talking
he's
about
gotta
a
go
5
there and do
runs
5
and 4
runs in
innings.
4 innings. Yeah, something like that.
Then you might see Timmy back in.
Yeah. I hope it doesn't happen. I hope Petit comes in and just gangbusters the rest of the way.
Well, if Petit does the rest of the way, that means he's doing well in all those starts.
Yeah.
So that's what we want.
That's what we want.
Who cares who's pitching?
And if this is Timmy's, if this is the end of Timmy as a starter, or at least Timmy as a starter for the Giants, I'm cool with it. It is what it is.
It is what it is. I mean, look, if he doesn't pitch, doesn't start the rest of the year, and the Giants make it or don't make it to the playoffs, even if Timmy pitches in the playoffs out of the bullpen, they're still starting 2015 with him as a starter. There's no question about that. But why wouldn't they? They're not
Yeah.
going to take August and go, oh, well, 2015 you're a reliever.
Yeah.
I don't see
Well,
that happening.
unless-
Even if Petit is like
Yeah.
5-0 or 6-0 in these
But
starts.
unless there's some big moves that can be made in the offseason, some big names become available.
That's a good point. That's a good point.
And, you feel like you've got a solid 5, and you can move him to the bullpen, and he's okay with it.
Yeah. There
I would
is
love
that.
to see Timmy be the closer or the setup guy if he's cool with it, because if you think about it, that's a big hole going into next year.
Yeah.
Is obviously Romo's had a little bit of a renaissance the last few weeks, and well, I guess you can call it like a month now, where he's actually pitched pretty well after
has.
losing his job. In the setup role, he's done pretty good. I actually don't know the particular numbers, but just from a feel standpoint, I can't remember a big blow-up inning from him since losing his closing job.
He had a couple.
He had a
of bumps
couple
in the
when it
road.
was like we were throwing him in like the 6th inning of games that were already decided.
Yeah, and he gave
But-
up a home run or
yeah.
whatever. But no, since then he's actually been fine.
Yeah.
He's lowered his ERA since we saw him blow up against Colorado. So he's been fine.
But I don't feel like he moves into the closer role again.
No,
I don't feel like he was that kind of pitcher anyway. And he had that one season
Yeah.
where it was amazing. We won the World Series on him being the closer. Closers kind of have a short run regardless.
almost everyone
but-
does.
But he could be a fantastic setup man, arm out of the bullpen for another bunch of years.
Yeah,
here,
aside
you know.
from your Riveras and Lee Smiths and
It puts a lot
And-
more pressure on your arm in that closer role than any other spot in that bullpen.
It does.
Because you have to. Sometimes there's games. Sometimes there's series where you come in every game of the series, and that doesn't happen for other guys in the bullpen.
no,
It's the only guy that gets that. So
it's a special spot. But I could see that if Roma doesn't come back, Casillas still going to be on the team next year.
Yeah.
He's still signed, and he's had a couple of bumps too. I mean, not blow-ups like Romo, but
Yeah.
he blew his save, the other night, and they still won. And
but let's be honest,
won a couple.
that's a hole going into 2015.
huge hole.
I
I
think
think.
because are you going to reliably say Casillas is the guy? I mean, we know Casillas put up great numbers for a bunch of years in a row now. I still don't feel like he's got really the mentality of a closer. I don't feel like he has the intimidation factor that a closer is supposed to have. I could see Timmy having that, though. I could see Timmy coming in a 9th inning and just striking out 3 guys in a row on a consistent basis because he only has to do that 1 inning.
He has that the small sample size of the 2012 playoffs where
Yeah.
he came in and just dominated out of the bullpen. But when he has started, when things go south, it often is the first inning.
Yeah.
And a lot of people in the past have talked about the fact that maybe he doesn't warm up enough or whatever. I don't know what the reason is,
Sure.
but his first inning ERA is usually pretty high as a starter.
Yeah.
So it would be interesting to figure out or find out if he does eventually become a closer sometime in his career, if that first inning is going to translate to the ninth, or because there's lack of adrenaline maybe for him in the first inning
or
of a
you don't
start.
have to look forward to 7 more innings.
Exactly, where he
If
loads
the first
up.
inning was the problem because it was the first inning, or because it was the first inning of a start and not just the first and only inning, you know?
I think Timmy is capable of throwing 94, 95 if he only had one inning. I really do. I really think that. I think
I totally agree.
you know he's got a plan.
But not only
for
that,
his,
but he's got one of the
stamina.
most devastating out pitches
Oh, yeah.
that anybody has. Even now, you know, the big thing as a closer is going to be, you know, can I locate a fastball when I'm throwing it as hard as I freaking can? And if you're throwing
been
at
his
92
problem.
to 94, which generally he's like hovering around 91, 90 when he's a starter, you know, but he can't locate that, so it's like.
So how's he going to locate 94?
Yeah, exactly. So that's I think the big question mark. However, if he's not going to be a starter, it's an interesting experiment and it's worth a shot, I think. However, again, depending on what happens in the offseason, if some guy comes, you know, we get the right guy for the right price and he makes sense, you know. But when we picked up Peavy, we gave up the closer of the future in a way, right? So now we're kind of scrambling for that spot.
Because he is it right now.
All right, okay, real quick. I think this is probably the last thing we talk about on this show because this is what we, I was thinking about this. What we do with these bonuses, we come in here with no notes, no nothing. We always
man.
still
It's
find
just
plenty to
off the
talk about.
cuff.
Yeah.
We're just talking shop, man.
But how do you feel about holding on to Peavy for another season?
I mean, look.
I mean, I
okay.
like the guy. I really do like the guy.
I totally like the guy.
Yeah.
But you got Kane coming back, assumedly. You got Bumgarner. So Vogelsong, he was only signed to 1 year.
No, Vogelsong is a possible, but
But he's not signed to next year. It's
I
just a
wouldn't even
one-year
say
contract.
improbable because yes, we've seen him pitch well towards the end of the season,
Yeah.
but this has been a struggle of a year for him in a lot of ways.
Yeah, he's
You
still,
know?
3.6, 3.70 ERA right
Yeah,
now.
he's serviceable as like a 4 or 5 guy, but
Yeah.
if you can improve, then you improve.
Yeah, I mean, he's...
And I think Peavy's an improvement if you're talking about 4 or 5 guys. I would have Peavy over him right now.
And then you got, of course, Bum.
Peavy's like
and-
a few years younger too, right? So
Yeah,
you know.
And then you got Tim Hudson, of course, is signed through next year. You got Lincecum, assumedly would come back as a starter. So Peavy, it's kind of Peavy Vogelsong. I think
Yeah.
they're both not signed through next year. So
you basically make a call on one of those guys, and then you fill in the extra slot.
Vogelsong's probably cheaper.
Vogelsong is probably cheaper. Very, very good point.
I'm not saying the Giants should save money, but if they can sign some bat next year, I don't know.
Yeah.
We'll see. They overbid for that Cuban guy. Forget his name right now that the Red Sox won out on. So, but hey, look, they didn't sign him, so now I think it comes to Pablo. He could end the year at 300 or close to it.
Pablo's probably going to command quite a bit of money.
And for batting like freaking zero for the first time of the season, it's pretty incredible that he is where he is. And they got no one coming up. So if he's commanding 5 years, $100 million, if the Giants are going to overpay for him, you got to overpay for him now. You don't overpay for him. If you go into the off season, he's gone. He's gone. So I think it's got to be kind of a similar thing to what they did to some of the guys last year. They signed him late in the year. We'll see.
And if you don't grab Pablo next year, I don't know who you play at third base. There's nobody.
Joaquin Arias. There we go. Boom. Problem solved.
Everybody who talks about how we need to get rid of Pablo, I want you to look inside yourself, take a good hard look, and then send me a letter and tell me who the hell we're supposed to put there and why that's a better choice. 'Cause I just don't see it.
And then go jump in a
don't see it.
dryer and have your spouse turn it on. or
I just
something.
don't see it. I don't see another option that makes any sense. And the problem is, we will have to overpay him. Not because we're just assholes and we overpay people, but because we're not the Dodgers or the Yankees. It's because third base is a barren wasteland right now in the National League. And it just, the major leagues, who is out there? You know? There's just not a ton of awesome third basemen running around.
I think Chase Headley is probably the best third baseman kind of coming up in the free agent market. But he's with the Yankees right now, and he's doing okay.
Yeah, like
so.
David Wright isn't just going to fall in our laps.
No.
You know?
Nothing like that.
It's not going to happen. So, yeah, you kind of got to bite the bullet on this one. All right, so we're going to wrap this one up.
Oh, yeah, I wanted to
sure.
say real quick before we wrap this up. So hopefully we're recording on Monday again, and we're going to try and stream it live again.
Oh, yeah.
So we're going to have a live call-in show again. The number is 415-799-SFG1. And they're going to be in Colorado on Monday, Labor Day. In fact, they have
another chance to beat up on the Rockies.
They have essentially a doubleheader on Monday, by the way.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
So the first game is a continuation from a rain-suspended game from May 22nd. And so...
What was the score, by the way?
It was 2-2.
Okay. So basically a brand new ball game.
Bottom of the sixth, 2 outs, runner on first of the Rockies. Troy Tulowitzki was up, third batting position. So obviously Troy's gone.
Yeah.
So whoever they put in is the number 3 batter. So assumedly they'll get out of the 6th inning. So yeah, you got a 3-inning game.
Normally what they do with this is they do... They give you like an extra guy. They give you like 26.
But the roster.
But this is September 1st.
September 1st. Yeah.
So there's plenty of guys. So that's not an issue.
No, so it's going to be a 3-inning game. Obviously, you can go to extra innings, and then the full game, the first game of the series, essentially starts 20 to 30 minutes afterwards.
Okay.
So when we come to you on Monday, we're going to know the result of that suspended game, and we're probably going to be near the end or at the end of the second game.
Yeah.
So.
Real quick,
4 games from now.
Real quick before we go, who are you most excited to? Who you're thinking we're going to see on September 1st? Because actually, we're not going to have a show until then. So
yeah. Well, guys like Juan Perez.
I'd love to see Gary Brown up here, man.
Gary Brown.
I do want to see.
He's coming up.
Yeah. We know we're going to see him.
Yeah.
And he's probably going to come. He's going to be like a pinch hitter, defensive replacement, pinch runner,
steal bases,
kind of guy. But I'm excited to just see this guy, and we've been hearing about him for quite a while now, and I'm like, he's gonna be like a kind of an old rookie, It's like we've been hearing about this guy for a while.
He's
not
one of those
that
guys
old,
I think
but
a lot of Giants fans expected to see a year or two ago.
Yeah.
And he's had some slumps.
Yeah.
He's still hanging around though. He's having an okay year, so. Yeah, I think he's going to be called up along with the allotment of regular AAAers that have come up. I don't think we're going to see like a Kyle Crick or anyone like that at this point. He's a little too young.
I would have said that I was excited about Panic, but he's here.
And he's hitting 312 or something.
Yeah.
Over 100 ABs now.
He's here, and
he's doing well.
He's a big leaguer, man. So that's if anything happens this season, or if nothing else happens this season,
silver lining.
At least this was like the rise of Joe Panic, right?
I just noticed the amount of Brewer fans here tonight.
There's a lot. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I actually just ran into my friend Erin, and she's with the Brewer fan right now, too.
Oh.
Yeah. The blonde girl sitting right there, that's Erin, and then her friend is a Brewer fan.
Coming out of the woodwork.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, apparently they're everywhere. All right, well, that's going to do it for episode 68.1. Again, it's TortureCast. If you want to follow us on Twitter, follow us collectively at TortureCast. You can also follow each one of us individually. I am at Willie Dills, Chad is at ChadK21, and Ben is at Fried Duck. You can also check us out on TortureCast.com. You can find us on iTunes, you can find us on Stitcher, you can like us on Facebook, you can do all those things. A lot of cool stuff coming up. Look forward to the World Park interview, and the next couple games we're going to go to, we're going to have a little more access than we've had in the past. So we're actually going to be able to bring you guys hopefully a lot more content in these bonusodes and above that. So really looking forward to that. Feel free to shoot us emails. It's mail@torchcast.com. All that stuff. Thank everybody for listening to episode 68.1. The Giants are only 3.5 games back of the Dodgers, and we're a game and a half up in the wild card spot. So things are looking up. 4-game winning streak. All right, we'll see everybody next time for episode 69. My name is Willie Dills for Chad K21. Well, Chad King and Ben Lee. Boom.
A big thank you to everybody for listening to the Torture Cast, the podcast by and for fans of the San Francisco Giants. Follow us on Twitter at TortureCast. You can also like us on Facebook or check out our blog at torturecast.com. I also want to say thank you to Ashcon and Bailey for letting us use their song Feeling Like a Giant for our intro. For Ben Lee and Chad King, my name is Willie Dills saying, we'll see you next time.